Hey guys, AK88 on cars. Okay, so today we're going to talk about making carbon fibre parts. For those that know me, or don't know me, I'm not really the most handy of person, so making stuff isn't really my strong point. However, I've tried something that I really wanted to do for a long time. After watching some videos online, specifically from Composites, who also happen to sell the items, I was enthused to give it a go. This is going to be the first time I've ever done this, and I'm going to show you the mould making process, wet laying carbon, cutting and finishing, and then I'm going to finish with what I've learned and my tips and hints to you guys if you want to try this out for the first time. Let's check it out. So there's lots of parts that I would really like to make in carbon fibre. The side seals of the VX220 with the triangles built in them, some protective covers for the rear lights because all the cables are open or exposed and quite easy to knock. And the third thing that I would really like to do is make a carbon fibre diffuser. But I'm getting a slight bit ahead of myself. I needed to start on something small so I could work on it in the central city flat that I live in currently at the moment, and I needed something functional. Now, if you watched my last video, you would have seen that one of the things that we did recently was install some new AEM monitoring gauges, specifically a new boost gauge, an oil pressure monitoring gauge, and an oil temperature gauge. And I really like these AEM gauges, but one of the mistakes I made is the boost gauge, which is mounted next to the start button, is at such an angle that when the sun hits it, I can't always see what's on the boost gauge, slightly detracting from the point of it. So I wanted to buy a solar shade. I sort of started figuring that this might be a good place to start off. So I bought a solar shade that seemed to fit the AEM gauges that I bought from eBay and showed up, and I figured that this would be the thing that I would start to make carbon fibres with. Now, in hindsight, this wasn't the most simplest of shapes to start with. Things in cones or that have tight corners are really typically quite difficult to lay, and I would have been much better to start with something that was a little bit more flat. However, I didn't really have anything else I wanted to make, so I figured, well, this is small, so if it goes wrong small rather than goes wrong big. So the part showed up, and the first thing I needed to do was to make a mould from it. So I used the Composite mould making kit. This included a number of key parts, so it had a number of release agents, both of wax and something a little bit more extreme. It had a gel coat maker, and then it had a wider supportive mould maker. And this is why I started off. Now, this process by itself was quite difficult, so let's get into looking a little bit more now.
Right folks, here we go. So the first step is to apply a mould release agent. Initially there was two that came with the kit, a wax and this ready to go agent. This you need to apply 2 coats and allow it to dry, which just ensures a clean break when you want to separate it from the mould. So the next stage is we need to apply the gel coat. Again, this comes in the kit, but this needs to be mixed up, including a base layer and a hardener. Here you can see me taping up the area that I don't want to copy and get it ready for setting. So Composites provides easy summaries in the kit and videos. I use GPT to help me along. Cut a bit of stirring. So I need to apply 2 layers of this mean green to the mould. If I was doing a bigger mould, I might apply 3, but I think 2 is enough for this. That allows for some sanding. Now, you want to allow about 1 to 2 hours between setting because it needs to be tacky dry before we move on to the next coat. So here's me testing. So you really need to do this gel coat as well as the later mould all in one sitting properly. So this is kind of an afternoon or a morning. You can see me mixing it up ready again. Now the next stage of this will be the mould making kit. You can kind of see the mould putty and hardener in the background here. You really want to lay this on because it does dry in a much smaller profile. Okay, so here we are making up the putty mould. So the idea of this is to provide some structure around the gel coat that you've laid down. The thing I do differently here is where I had an angle, like the opening to the solar shade, I would have put a 90-degree angle on there, as that would have helped me out in the long run. This stuff's really strong, really strong. This stuff is so strong that it managed to actually stick to the cup and reinforce the cup. So, never thought this was going to be a quick job. Little did I know this was going to be a couple of evenings, night working on my balcony's work. And here's me getting fed up and just ripping the cup. Should have done that in the first place. So this is the issue I mentioned earlier. So there was too much of a lip on the front of the mould, so I couldn't put it out the front. Here's me optimistically removing the tape, as if that's stopping it getting in the way. So this point I realised this was going to be a much longer task, so over to time lapse. Did I flip? So my attention is going to be focused on that front lip, just trying to cut it down and make it work as best as possible. Putty mould, incredibly strong. A full-blown angle grinder stood up to it pretty well. But after a lot of work, this is where we got to.
So predictably, my iPhone died midway through recording that time lapse, but we did manage to get it out in the end. The rest of it came up nicely. I think what we need to do now is just sand away a little bit more of this edge here, which I'm going to kind of do on my balcony in the middle of the night.
So the fact that I haven't had a noise complaint or been evicted from my flat right now is a pure miracle. But I'm going to show you now how we did eventually get the mould out. So this is a little bit more of a slow-mo version. So it's pulling at the front and trimming of that front edge down. You see that high spot there I need to work on, and the defect that I'm rubbing there is because my cat's knocked over the mould when it was drying, but we'll sort that one now. So I'm just cutting off some more of the excess here just to try and get a little bit more access to the bottom area of this mould. Again, certainly if I was going to do stuff differently here, that back area that I'm trying to sort of grind down now to a more indented level so that effectively it's easier to pull the mould on. I would have put a 90-degree bit on there so it was more like a tunnel at the back. It's one of the things with mould making, there's no easy way to do these things. It's all awkward angles, little tools, big tools, and a lot of hand hardening. These die grinders are an absolute lifesaver here, as you can tell. But we're nearly there now. Ready to go on to the next stage. So here you can see me wet sanding the surface finish of the gel coat. So as I was sanding this back, I had to correct the error that I pointed out before. But as I was doing so, a small hole actually ended up opening in between the gel coat layer and the sort of putty layer where it hadn't bonded. So I had to make some additions to that, which basically involved mixing up a bit more of the gel coat and then applying it and sanding it down again. Laborious work, no shortcut here. So here we can see the completed finish. The darker spots are in fact where we've almost rubbed through the gel coat to the underlying mould. That like half semicircle colour you see right at the back, well that was one part of a hole. Now we got the finish as good as we could get here, but as you could tell, that's still not perfect. But I figured that was enough to give us a decent mould size. So here you can see me applying some release agent to the areas that I don't want the carbon fibre resin to stick. I only did one coat here, two probably in hindsight would have been better.
Okay, so after all that struggle, we managed to make our mould. Wasn't easy pulling it apart. I spent a lot of time getting the mould ready, cutting it and further shaping it as you've seen in some of these videos. And then the day was upon us when I was coming to wet lay. So let's take a look at that process and how it went right about now.
Okay, so the next stage is all made from the Easy Composites wet lay. Lovely bit of 1.5 metre length carbon fibre roll. So I cut this down into 3 sections because I was going to make this 3-ply using a paper template. Probably a little bit too big. Now this bit's going to go quick. Here you can see me mixing up the resin. I'm going to apply some resin first before I start to wet lay the different layers. So You've got to do this in one setting. Here you can probably see that I've got too much, so I'm applying the last set here before I get onto the vacuum bagging aspect next. Just applying some peel ply and a breathable layer. It's a simple vacuum bag. So this is what it looked like just after we finished. I had a little bit too much bleeding there through the breathable layer. Could use better material next time, but all in all, not too bad. A lot of mess, a lot of rough cuts. We'll do that differently.
Okay, so we've waited 24 hours and we're going to open this mould for the first time together to see how it goes. Now, there's a few things that I'm a little bit worried about here. The first one is on the sides. It feels like there's quite a bit of a bulge on this side over here especially. And I think it's because I should have cut more of the excess off. So when I'm looking at the bag, I can see that the excess here is kind of spread out, but I can't see the excess here. So what I wonder is whether the excess was like crumpled into the corner. But let's see. I don't know if there's a perfect way to open this. Quite impressed with the bag. Certainly something else I was expecting. Oh, that came off remarkably easily. Okay, so first impressions. Now, when I take this off, I might move this out of the way because it's quite noisy. So the way that this should have worked is I've got the peel ply on top of the final coat, and this was supposed to be a breather layer. Unfortunately, the kit didn't include a bit of the breather cloth, so I had to substitute with paper towels. But we'll see how this is going to go. Kind of as expected, this is just going to rip off in a very unfashioned manner. Now the peel ply, okay, while removing this, should be a little bit stronger, and you really just have to. Oh, okay. Need to go to the gym just to train for this exercise, I think. It looks so easy on the Easy Composites video. Wow, this stuff is like sprawling all over the place. Okay, we might have to pause the video. Okay, after that minor break, I managed to get the peel ply off. I also managed to trim some of these outliers here before I sort of got back to this. We can see that there's a couple of things that have gone a little bit wrong here. So the first one is, and I think all of this we should be able to fix with cutting, but it's just going to be selected. I tried to put a little bit of extra finish so that it would effectively hit the side like this. My feeling there was it was easy to like push it out. However, that's kind of backfired here, because what's happened is it's kind of pushed it all back up, especially in this corner here. That's going to be a real nightmare to try and solve. So I just remembered I bought on eBay a really cheap set of interior remove tools, which might come in handy now. Right, be right back. If this finish isn't anything other than dog, I will be immensely surprised. Okay, I think I've got the whole thing now. I'm actually remarkably surprised. That finish really isn't too bad. I am really surprised. I did put a release agent on the bottom. Smells okay. Something happened over here on this side where it looks like some of the resin went over the wax. I have found an issue. On both sides. Right, so can you see that down there? So we have holes in the resin where the resin didn't set, and there's another one, a much bigger one, over here. That is a shame.
So when people are talking about the daily grind, I'm not sure if they're thinking about this. Awkward cutting, best for a Dremel.
Okay, so we've trimmed her up, and this is what she's looking like for now, which is pretty good. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make a diagonal cut along here on both sides, because we've got this blemish. Let me show you the blemish here on both sides, and it kind of has bulged on the inside as well. It's not very strong. I can kind of, as I push it, I can kind of see the weave moving a little bit. And it's actually even worse on this side. It looks quite unsightly. So I think, yeah, if I just cut it up here, that should be fine.
Okay, so here we can see ready for cutting. Let's get ready for another montage. So here you can see me shaving and cutting down those sides. It's just a really slow process of doing each side and trying to cut smooth edges. It's always going to be a combination of machine tools and then the inevitable hand sanding as it comes in. Here you can see me trying to smooth down that inner surface. I'm trying to just get a round edge on the front of this now to make it kind of look perfect. All surfaces are a sanding bar if you focus. So here you can see me again just trimming up that inside. I'm trying to get a nice sort of shaped lip to kind of get behind it. All quality cinematography here. Structured by the light. Okay, so here is the finished product. As you can see, remarkably shiny. Shiny on the top, actually got quite a nice finish on the inside as well. Cat inspection. Pretty quite proud.
Well guys, that's it for today's video. If you've enjoyed this and this has inspired you to go ahead and order your own kits, whether it's from Easy Composites or someone else, drop me a comment. Let me know what's the first carbon fibre bit that you would really like to make. What's the wildest thing that you would want to make in carbon fibre? I'm going to be posting more videos as time goes on. Learning how to make this carbon fibre, I think there's going to be quite a few more carbon fibre videos, as well as some aero videos, as I kind of work up to getting my engine built at some point in the next year or so after more adult purchases take order. Anyway, if you stayed to this point, guys, thanks again for tuning in. Hope you're subscribed, and if not, now's the perfect time. But thanks for your time, and take care of yourself. See you.